My name is Victoria Winters. I live at Collinwood, but the part of the mansion I'm in at the moment is a strange one. One that has been closed off for many years, is never used, never visited.
Have you seen Miss Winters anywhere?
Me? No.
Do you know where she is?
No, I don't. I don't have any idea.
David, please unlock the door. I promise that I won't say anything to your father or your Aunt Elizabeth. David, please unlock the door and let me out.
We back in here for Dark Shadows of October 1966, and we're coming off of a month in September where I felt things were building to be more supernatural. Unfortunately, the first half of October was kind of disappointing in that aspect, but by the end of October, things started to go up a notch again. First things first, I need to show off my pretty cool Dark Shadows shirt that I got on Redbubble. You know, I'm recording this video probably a year before it will air on the channel, so it's really hard that I'm not going to be able to wear this shirt more until after this video debuts in like a year from when I'm recording it. But anyway, I am happy to have this Dark Shadows shirt, even though we are far away still kind of from Barnabas himself. Now, also I want to say that I don't know if I've talked about it yet because I have been recording this for a while now, even though it's happening weeks and weeks apart. But I have seen some of Dark Shadows before, but I've only really seen like the first 2 years of the show, so I don't really know where everything goes. And I'm wondering, because I know after Barnabas comes, a lot of these characters I'm watching now kind of fade into the background. So I'm hoping we actually tie up some of the loose ends that this show is currently having, that I'm currently watching in October of 1966, but we'll see how true or not true that is.
Why did you want to know about Vicky?
Well, she disappeared this morning without a word. David hasn't had his lessons all day.
I'm sure he's not kicking.
When I want him to have a holiday, I'll say so.
Well, Vicky's had her holiday, Mother. Why shouldn't David?
Holiday?
Uh-huh. She spent the day with an old friend of the family. I think you might have met him. Burke Devlin.
Where is she?
Upstairs in her room, shortening a hem.
Thank you.
Mother.
Yes?
I was just wondering, while I'm in town, I might run into Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Well, do you want me to say anything to her? I mean, have you given any more thought to hiring a housekeeper?
I'm sorry to have to ask you to come here, but it's a little risky at your house.
It's not my house. It's Mr. Malloy's house. I only worked for him.
No matter.
So, the coroner decided to call Mr. Malloy's death accidental. I can't tell you how shocked I was by that.
I know. I felt the same way. I still feel the same. But I think you should soft pedal how you feel about it.
How can I, when I know someone killed him, and that someone is walking around free, and Mr. Malloy is dead?
I know. But if that someone found out how you felt about it, how you really feel about it, he wouldn't want you to come up to work at Collinwood.
Oh, I suppose not. If we're talking about the same person.
Yes, there's no need to mention names. I have 2 goals in this life. One is to get Collinwood and all it represents. The other is to avenge Bill Malloy's death.
So one thing I'm going to start talking about with October is Miss Johnson. This character came to be a little bit more prominent this month.
How did How did Mr. Malloy feel about Roger coming back to live at Collinwood?
Oh, he was very upset. He had no use for Roger.
How did Bill feel about Sam Evans?
Well, they were friends, not close friends. But I often heard Mr. Malloy say what a shame it was, the way Sam Evans had let himself go to seed.
Did he ever mention anything about why he thought Sam Evans had gone to seed?
No, not to me, he didn't.
I see. If we could find the answer to that question, it might be the answer to the big one. Mrs. Johnson. We don't particularly care for each other, right?
If it'll help find out who killed Mr. Malloy, I'll hate you in public.
Bill, Mr. Malloy spoke of you so often, and you and I have had so many telephone conversations that it doesn't seem as though I hadn't seen you for all these years.
I have felt extremely close to this family for a long, long time.
Shall we go into the drawing room?
Thank you.
There was a time, of course, when the house was full of servants.
Yes, I know Mr. Malloy often spoke of those times. I know even on the night that he died. I'm sorry. I just can't realize that he's gone.
We must accept these things, Mrs. Johnson.
He was a good person. He needn't have died.
We can't always control accidents.
You do think it was an accident?
Don't you?
Well, I think it could have been prevented. I'm sorry. I came here to speak about a position, not to talk about Mr. Malloy.
Well, they are connected, I suppose. Mr. Malloy always spoke so highly of you that when I began considering engaging a housekeeper for Collinwood, you were the first person who came to my mind.
She was Bill Malloy's former housekeeper, and she definitely is blaming this family for his death, and she's starting to have a connection to Burke because of that, because obviously Burke thinks the same.
I couldn't believe it, Liz. You'll have to excuse me, but right after you phoned, I had to rush right home.
It is good news, isn't it?
Good news! The coroner's decision is the most wonderful news I've heard in years. Accidental death due to drowning. I think I'll have it cast in bronze. Have you told anyone else about it?
No, the sheriff just left a half an hour ago.
Oh, I suppose it's all over Collinsport by now. Oh, I would like to see the faces of one or two people. You know, it was generally believed to be homicide, you know.
All right, I'm going to tell you once more, Burke. I gave a complete report of my investigation to the coroner. I went in and I answered his questions. And then he alone came to the conclusion that Malloy was not murdered. There was no influence, no pressure, a simple study of the facts. Including the interesting observation that the family that hires the most people in this town, pays the most taxes, controls the most votes, was taken completely off the hook. Burke, I've got a lot of work to do, so I think you better get out of here.
You think it's buried, don't you, Sheriff? You think this business is buried in the ground with a dead man who died accidentally by drowning? Well, let me tell you something. You're wrong. It's out in the clear, still out in the clear.
Burke, I think it might be a very good idea if you just packed your bags and went back to New York.
I don't think so. And if you have any idea of running me out of town, remember, I can afford lawyers now that'll chew you up into little pieces.
Can't you just leave that family alone?
No. I've been wearing gloves up till now, but I'm taking them off. And I don't care who knows it. You or them.
However, the coroner ruled that Bill's death was an accidental drowning, which of course made Roger thrilled and Burke not so much. Now yes, a lot of this month of October still brought us on this what really happened to Bill Malloy, and the pace of the show continues to move very slow, which is something I'm just going to have to get over, because I feel like a lot of these soap operas in the 60s and 70s were super slow, and soap operas today are still slow. But the pace at which this show moves is pretty rough at times to really enjoy the episodes day in and day out. And I'm also seeing a trend between September and October where some of like we get like a week or two of the show heavily focusing on this murder mystery, followed by a week or two focusing more heavily on the supernatural. So it feels like they are slowly putting on the supernatural stuff more and more, but they still have to focus a lot on the typical soap opera aspects.
I must have misunderstood you. Did you actually say that you've come for Collinwood? Do you think we would hand it to you?
I don't think you would hand me anything, Roger. Besides, the house doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your sister.
Be that as it may, do you think she would let you have this house?
She may not have much choice in the matter.
You're not serious.
Oh, yes, I'm serious.
You can't. You simply can't be thinking of a thing like that.
I've thought of nothing else for the past 10 years.
You said you meant us no harm.
That, my dear Carolyn, is what the politicians call campaign oratory.
Now, on another more soap opera aspect-y part of the show, we have, of course, Caroline and Joe have been having issues where Carolyn is getting closer to Burke, but Burke and Victoria also have a bit of a connection. Burke's been warning her to get out of Collinwood while she can. So, on one hand, they are kind of building up a triangle, it seems, with Carolyn, Burke, and Victoria. Meanwhile, Joe is getting close to Maggie.
There's a sad sack if I ever saw one.
Who? Oh. Joe Haskell.
The most alone man I've ever seen. Hey, Pop, go over and ask him to join us.
Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Joe.
Thanks for saving my life.
Hey, what happened? Did you get stood up?
Yeah. I thought I had a dinner date. The lady thought otherwise.
It happens in the best of families.
Oh, believe me, this is the best family in Collinsport, anyway.
Well, it is faintly possible that you're referring to the Collins family of Collinsport.
It's possible.
Fine. Then let's drink to the Collins family of Collinsport.
You know, Joe, if all you think about is Caroline, if you think very much about her, you'll get her out of Collinwood.
But how? It's easier said than done.
Well, do you want to sit back and watch her grow old gracefully up in that mausoleum the way her mother has?
No, certainly not.
Well, then you better do something about it. Otherwise, that's exactly what's going to happen.
You know, I think you ought to change your tactics, Joe. Try something new.
Maybe what I should really try is a new girl.
You want to dance?
Me?
Well, not your father.
I'd love to.
Tonight we'll forget all about the Collins family of Collinsport.
And I'll drink to that.
Maggie being the daughter of Sam, I think Joe and Maggie have a more positive relationship than Joe and Carolyn, to say the least, at least. So that's been some of the more soapy stuff we've been getting. We have a bit of a love triangle. We have Carolyn crushing on Burke pretty hardcore, even though Burke and Victoria also have a bit of a connection. But let's get to the actual meat and potatoes of the month of October, which came through David, an annoying younger character, honestly, but a character who, the first time I was watching this, I found actually more annoying than I do now. But I do now see, because before I don't think I've seen like the first 30 or 40 episodes of this. So I kind of understand what they tried to do with the character of David and how he's this younger character who's like kind of has a dark connection to the afterlife and sees ghosts and is kind of like an evil child. I get it, and they've definitely been building that between David and Victoria. There comes a point, because I'm not going to get into this part of the storyline because I really didn't like it, but there was a story regarding a pen. We'll just leave it at that. And Victoria thought that David was the one that stole the pen, even though Roger wanted to get rid of the pen because it was incriminating, blah, blah, blah. I'm not getting into that. But it comes to a point where David's upset with Victoria still because David hates everybody, it seems.
Oh, David, don't start talking about ghosts and widows again.
Why not? Disappeared, didn't it? Why couldn't they have taken it?
Because they don't have any use for fountain pens. But little boys do.
You think I took it?
No, I don't think so. I think you might have borrowed it.
I didn't steal your pen.
David, wait.
What's it now?
I thought I heard something.
It's just a mouse. Come on, practically there.
I'd rather go back.
You want your pen, don't you?
Not this badly.
Well, there's nothing to be scared of. Look, Miss Winters, I come here all the time.
What for? This section of the house has been closed off for 50 years. What do you want to come here for?
Because nobody bothers me here. Come on, let's go.
What was that?
The wind. What did you think it was? Gee, I never knew a grown-up would be scared at such a little thing like that.
David, where are we? We've been walking up and down stairs, in and out of corridors for the last 10 minutes.
I know. I've been taking you around in circles.
You've been what?
Well, you don't think I'd want you to be able to find it by yourself, do you?
Where are we going now?
In here.
But David brings Victoria into one of the wings at Collinwood and locks her in a room. And while in the room, also when he locks her up, he's like, you can stay in there until you die. So David's really getting kind of dark with that.
I have all sorts of cans, can opener, paper plates, and even some forks.
Well, you're very well equipped.
You bet I am. When my friends come here to visit, I sit down and I have something to eat. And it's just great.
Friends? I thought you said nobody ever came here.
Oh, I don't mean people. I mean my friends. The ones that live in this part of the house. The ones that never really die.
It's dark now, David, and I've seen your room, and I'd like to go back now.
But there's much more to tell.
Well, I don't want to hear any more.
Sometimes dead people come here to visit me. Sometimes when it gets dark, they stand in that corner, and they look at me, and they talk.
David, that's nonsense.
You know, once they told me about a girl who went into a room, and the door was locked behind her. She tried to get out, and she couldn't. And 50 years later, they came back. And when they found her, she was nothing but bones. Dead bones. They love it when there's thunder and lightning.
You stop trying to frighten me and unlock that door.
Why should I want to frighten you? Just because you called me a thief? And just because you said I was a liar and I stole your pen?
Why did you bring me up here?
To get the pen. Isn't that what I said? To get the pen I stole.
I don't think that pen is up here. I don't think it ever was here.
You also think you're so smart. You think you know everything. Well, all you know how to do is to try to get me in trouble.
Unlock that door, David.
Why? Are you afraid to meet my friends? You know what they'll do to you? They'll come into this room. They'll yell at you. And they'll scream at you. And they'll make you wish you never said that I stole your pen.
David, unlock that door! Thank you. Let's go.
Would you blow out the candle? Because the house could catch on fire.
David! David, unlock that door! David, please!
You can bang and bang and bang, but it won't do you any good because you're going to stay there for the rest of your life.
David, please let me out!
And you can scream and scream and scream and scream. David! And nobody will ever hear you.
David!
But Victoria's locked in this isolated room. And the ghost of Bill Malloy appears. So they keep bringing up the ghost aspect more and more, and now they're bringing Bill Malloy, who was just murdered, into the ghost aspect, which I enjoy.
Wake up, Miss Winters. Wake up. Wake up. There isn't much time.
Who is it?
Get away before you're killed. Get away before you're killed. Get away, Miss Winters, before you're killed.
I'm dreaming. I know I'm dreaming. Please, somebody. Please let me out.
I also enjoy the fact that when Bill Malloy's ghost kind of walks away from Victoria, and by the way, the ghost tells Victoria to get away before she is killed. This keeps being the warning to Victoria about being in Collinwood. But after the ghost leaves, there is seaweed on the floor, which, if you remember, if you have watched this, you know that, of course, there was a bunch of seaweed at the bottom of the cliff when Bill Malloy was found. So Roger eventually finds where Victoria is, saves her from the room, and she tells Roger about the ghost of Bill Malloy. Roger and Elizabeth go into the room and find the seaweed. So the ghost at Collinwood's seeming realer and realer by the week.
Does Vicky's claim that she saw Bill Malloy's ghost have any effect on your decision?
No, how should it? Anyway, it's utter nonsense. When I found her, she was babbling. I saw nothing at all to substantiate anything that she said.
Then you didn't look very closely.
What do you mean?
It's just as she described it, isn't it? Wet seaweed.
So of course after this, Victoria wants to leave. I mean, David clearly doesn't want her there, kind of left her to die in a room, which is pretty dark. David talks to Victoria about two ghosts being at Collinwood, one being Josette Collins, another being a ghost that he's not sure who that is. But Victoria tells David that there's a third ghost, one that isn't female, one that is male, and that is now Bill Malloy's ghost. Once David finds out that Victoria saw a ghost, and since he's been the only person to apparently see a ghost at Collinwood, he now wants Victoria to stay. Which Carolyn also kind of talks Victoria into staying.
Then why did you yell out, "I hope you stay in there until you die"?
But I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to the ghosts.
What ghosts?
Well, there are two of them. One is Josette Collins. There's another girl, but I don't know her name.
No, David, there aren't two of them. There are three of them.
Well, all I ever saw was two.
Didn't anybody tell you what I saw?
No. What did you see?
I saw the ghost of Bill Malloy.
I don't believe it.
All right, David, you don't have to believe it. I know I didn't believe you when you told me about your ghosts, but I do believe now.
What did he do? Did he talk to you?
Yes, he talked to me. He told me to leave Collinwood.
Oh, but you can't leave now.
Why not?
Just can't, that's all. You just can't.
Well, that's why I'm packing, because I thought you wanted me to leave.
That was before I knew.
Before you knew what?
That you had seen a ghost. Besides me, you're the only person that ever has.
What difference should that make?
Well, if they let themselves be seen by you, then that means they like you and they want you to stay.
Oh, no. He told me to leave before I was killed the way he was.
Then that means that his death wasn't an accident.
Now, there was this really funny moment that I found funny. They weren't going for funny with this, I don't think. They were trying to show that David is this really dark kid with maybe some evil inside of him. I think that's what they were going for. Or that David just has this dark connection to the afterlife and is a very weird kid.
Are you actually beginning to like me?
Miss Winters, I love you.
Has David ever said that about anything or anyone before?
Yes. Once when he lived in Augusta, he had a little kitten he told me he loved.
Oh? What happened to it?
He drowned it.
I don't know why I found it so funny, but the fact that they're talking about how David loved this kitten and then he drowned it, which is really dark. And in a normal circumstance, anybody that knows me, I hate when shows kill off animals and shit for like dramatic effect. But this made me laugh out loud because she delivers that line and then they play the dramatic dark shadows over the top music, bam bam bam. That it just really cracked me up for some reason. I mean, that about summed up the month. We could get back to the Burke storyline, who's like, he keeps trying to take down the Collins on a business level. He offered better jobs to the employees of Collins Enterprise. And there's also the fact that Victoria's trying to find out her identity. She's still wondering if the woman in the portrait is her mother. So that's another storyline also that's been slowly building. So they've finally built up multiple storylines at least, so I will give them credit for that. I still find the show most enjoyable when it's focusing on the supernatural because it is so different and because the other stories just drag on a little too much, that on a day-to-day level, on an episode-by-episode level, it's not as interesting to watch episode by episode. Some episodes could just be really boring. So I gave the month of October 1966 a 76 again. That brings Dark Shadows so far into an average grade of mine being a 76.8. We will see what November brings. Hopefully they could sprinkle in the supernatural stuff a little more, or at least speed up a storyline or two a little more. I'm assuming November was sweeps back then still. I don't know that to be true, honestly. I feel like it was, yeah. I think the sweeps have been around since the 50s. So November sweeps maybe can give us some bigger stories on Dark Shadows, but we will see. I'm still enjoying it overall. I mean, I didn't buy this shirt for nothing.
Bill Malloy told you he was killed?
I don't know. Maybe I dreamt the whole thing. I was asleep for a little while.
Well, naturally, I don't believe in things like that.
Neither do I.
But I believe you saw something. And I think whatever you saw was trying to tell you the truth. Someone was trying to tell you that Bill Malloy was murdered by someone in Collinwood.
Oh, it didn't say Collinwood. It said Collinsport. Now, that includes quite a few many more people.
Even me?
I didn't mean that.
But it could. Vicky, why don't you get out of there? Get out of there and run away as far and as fast as you can.